Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 7, The Fox. Episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened within the episode. So in this episode, the episode begins with Hotchner showing off his new baby. As we learned in a previous episode, Haley was on bed rest and now she's had the baby, which they've named Jack, and he's showing it to the team before they then receive their new case. And this case is to show or definitively decide whether or not a father was responsible for a murder-suicide or whether the entire family was murdered. Throughout the investigation, they do discover that it was in fact a murder, and they track down the family annihilator who targets families of parents who work for the government, who use the same healthcare provider that he works for, and he finds families that were like his own, so mother, father, little girl, little boy. And then when they are scheduled to go on vacation, he invades their home, holds them hostage for a few days before he then kills them, and then moves on to the next family. And after doing their investigation to figure out how and why and build the profile, they do eventually track down the Applewood Health Center, which was the location that all of the families used. And they discover that all of the families went to the same practitioner and are able to find the current family, save the current family. However, it is bittersweet in the ending because they knew of two families and saved the third. However, upon finding his trophies, they do find tapes with additional family names on them, as well as a box full of a lot more wedding rings than just the two, showing that he had been killing undetected for some time before they were able to find him. And that is basically this episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, we'll now rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So on the mostly objective ranking values, I gave 1 point for a single episode supporting character introduction. In this case, it wasn't the killer, because the killer was really on screen only for a couple minutes at the end. But I think the supporting character that I felt had the largest impact was Frank Fielding, who is the sister of the mother in the Crawford family, who was the second family murdered, but first family we saw on screen, as the first murder that they were aware of took place off screen. That's 1 point. Then we had a multi-season supporting character introduction, as this is the first episode where we see Jack Hotchner, who, of course, at this point is an infant, but as he is a child of one of the main characters, he will show up again throughout the Aaron's time on the show. So that's worth 3 points, bringing us to 4. Bringing us up to 7, we have the successful emotional impact. So Frank Fielding, as mentioned, was the brother of one of the mother in the family that we see on screen first, from the Crawford family, and he unfortunately has mental disorders, which caused him to be estranged from his family, and only his sister came to see him, but she had told him that she wouldn't be able to. So he goes to the house, he sees their final supper, had the opportunity to help them, but didn't understand what he was seeing, thought they were dining with a friend, and so he ended up leaving, thinking that she had told him to go away, really or get the hell out, which she actually would have been saying to help her or to go get help, which he didn't understand at the time. However, through the course of the interview, he realizes that that was the case, and it's devastating, his reaction. And I think that it did successfully emotionally cause an impact because of the clear devastation and just even putting yourself in that situation, knowing you found someone just before they died, knowing you could have helped them had you known they needed help, and then finding out that this important person to you ended up dying because you didn't understand the context at the time would be pretty devastating. I mean, obviously not his fault. He didn't know and he wasn't supposed to be there, so he assumed things were as usual, which is not an unreasonable assumption to make. But still, the devastation and the bittersweetness of almost being able to have saved them and then not being able to because he just didn't understand what was happening is tragic. Then there is a positive 4 points for our multi-season main character development, which of course is that Aaron is now a father, has a son, showed the son off to the FBI at the start of the show. However, that 4 points is cancelled out by the fact that this was regrettably a somewhat unmemorable episode, in that even rewatching it, I had no idea who did it or really where they were going with it. You know, like sometimes, well, I've explained this in the other videos as well, but I'll do it one more time again. Sometimes things stick with you after they play and you remember immediately what the episode is about. Those are memorable episodes. Semi-memorable episodes is you kind of start watching it and then the light bulb goes off and you start to remember, oh yes, now I remember what happened here. And then unmemorable is that light bulb, it never goes off. You're just kind of watching like it's the first time, even though it's not. So that was minus 4 points, which did leave this as a 7 out of 10 episode. So our season 1 ranking so far for the mostly objective ranking has in first Extreme Aggressor, Compulsion. This episode is now in third, The Fox, LDSK, Plain Sight, Broken Mirror, and then in last place we have Won't Get Fooled Again. So as for my personal opinion of this episode, I didn't hate it. Okay, so I found that I was more entertained than in the last episode, but I was less engaged than I was with the last episode. So while I was watching the episode, I kept looking at, oh, how much longer do we have? Or, maybe playing an app game, which I probably shouldn't be doing because I'm trying to review these things. Well, not review, but rank these things. But like I just kept getting distracted because it wasn't engaging my attention. Some moments did, like there was the section with introducing us to like the little baby Jack. That was adorable, but that was right at the start. Then there was the Frank emotional impact success, which was, great. And that was somewhere in the middle. And then, those were the two key moments that really engaged the attention. Otherwise, I was entertained with the going back and forth. Oh, and the ending was also bittersweet with like finding the other like tapes of other families and all of the like wedding rings showing that the amount of victims that went undetected was quite large. I also liked that detail because it does show that I know there's a statistic, I don't actually know what it is, but like 20 something always active in America at any given time, blah blah blah. I think is the statistic that I've heard in the show or around. I didn't do my own research, so grain of salt. But the point being, like this part really highlights that as he did go undetected for so long. But again, like it didn't engage my attention, even if I was entertained while I was watching. I also was quite distracted and easily distracted from it because of the fact that it wasn't engaging my attention the way the other episodes did, which is why I gave it a 3 out of 10, which isn't a great score, but I felt was fair for what it was. And that leaves the personal ranking to in first, Compulsion, Plain Sight, Extreme Aggressor. I put this episode in fourth, The Fox, LDSK, Won't Get Fooled Again, and then in seventh place was Broken Mirror. which now brings us to the series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, Season 1 has a score of 37 out of 220 so far, and the personal side has a score of 26 out of 220 so far. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 7, The Fox. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.